You're awesome, Lance.
Astronaut retired about a year ago. That's so I could move back to the mountains. Houston does not have mountains. It does not have outdoor activities, which I like. I grew up in Colorado, the mountains of Colorado, and I wanted to get back to that. So that was a tough choice for me, but it was time for me to move on. I did 2 shuttle flights. Each of those are about 2 weeks long, and both those went to the International Space Station to help build the space station. And then 2 years ago, I did a 6-month tour on the space station, launching out of Kazakhstan on a Russian Soyuz rocket. And then in 1969, I had 4 astronauts from the Apollo era come here to study. The idea is that it was very similar to the moon in the sense of the volcanoes and the lava flows, et cetera, that we had on here in the moon. So they could actually study or learn to study what it was to do geology, what it would look like, what to look for, so when they could relate it back to the scientists, because they were the eyes, the hands, and everything of the scientists up there. So they had to be able to relate in those kind of terms and that knowledge back to the folks on the ground to see what they were looking at. It was important for them to come out here and do that. And right now, these are the 2 NASA projects going on at Craters of the Moon right now. They're about a 5-year project. They are trying to study what goes on here, how it formed, and the idea also at Craters is it has not been disturbed much by man. So it's going to be very similar to what they're going to find on another planetoid, be it at the moon or Mars or the moons of Mars. That's what they're kind of looking at, all those aspects. And then they can study that here, and then they can figure out then how to study it best here and how to study it best when they get there. 2 shuttle missions, and then a long duration, we called it, on a Soyuz. So it starts off 2007. It was my first flight into the space station. And again, I became an astronaut in 1998. It took a while, 9 years before I got my first flight. Now it just happened to be the situation. We had too many astronauts coming in. We thought there were going to be a lot more flights going. Then we had Columbia, et cetera. It just slowed everything down. So we had to wait a long time. So this is in Florida. So we're getting in the shuttle here about 2.5 hours prior to launch. We climb into the shuttle. It is, of course, seats are back like this because you're looking straight up on the vehicle. The shuttle itself weighs about 200,000 pounds. There's a launch director telling us basically it's good to go for the day.
Okay, CJ, it took us a little while to get to this point, but the ship's in great shape. It was beautiful.
What year was this?
So
2007.
good luck, Godspeed. We'll see you back here in about 12 days or so.
That happens about 10 minutes before launch, because we come out of the hold at 9 minutes, and the weather's good, the vehicle's good, everything. They tell us you're good to go. That's what he just told us. This happens then. You see, this is when you really know you're going to go because you can see all the smoke going. You really never know until that moment, like that, what's going to happen. And actually, I have where I was sitting up on the flight deck, of a window right behind me, and I had a mirror so I could watch the whole cloud go behind me. It was really interesting. But that vehicle itself and everything with the fuel weighs 6 million pounds, and it has 7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. So you jump off the pad. It's amazing how fast you go off the pad. By the time those solid rocket boosters, which are 3 million pounds apiece, come off, it's at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. They pop off, but you're already going Mach 5 and 150,000 feet. So it's a lot of acceleration. And so then there's another 6.5 minutes we go on just the main engines. And so that's a total of 8 minutes and about 30 seconds we go, and you go from 0 miles an hour to 17,500 miles an hour. So it's pretty fast. Well, once we're done with that, that's the external tank, which was basically our fuel for the engines. Goes away. We take pictures of it to make sure how much of debris fell off of it, and then to make sure it didn't hurt our vehicle. That's what happened on Columbia. And so once we get in space, we have to change our shuttle from a launch vehicle to a orbit. Flying is an amazing thing. It's yeah, so you can see your own little spacecraft, basically, your own, environmental control system, all that kind of stuff going on there. We're just quite bulky, difficult to move in. Think of wearing your snowsuit or multiple snowsuits on at the same time, multiple gloves on at the same time, and trying to do fine work, working on your car, say, something like that. It's kind of similar to what you're doing. So it's kind of difficult to do, but we love doing it. It's a really good time. The views are fantastic. So you can't get views like that everywhere else. So right here also, besides deploying the solar array, we had to actually pull in one of these solar arrays, retract it in so we could actually move that, or another mission was going to move that module to another spot. So this is again the end of it's kind of like our celebration party, and this is in the Russian segment. We're eating a lot more food. Yes, and you do play with food in space. It just kind of happens anyway. And this is it kind of get a little crowded on the shuttle when you try to get, this is the morning routines in the morning here. We're all, brush your teeth, whatever you have to do. You see a little bit of water floating up. Here's Danny's going to show you the bathroom on the shuttle. It's a little different. So you can see he's basically pointing out that you have a funnel. You guys can probably figure out what that's for. A little suction on that thing. Be careful with that. And then the other part of the deal, you have a little, there's basically just a hole in there with a cylinder that you fill up, so to speak. And where he's going to hit the ground, there's a flare out, drops the wheels, and then lands it. Again, the next flight was 2 years later, or a little less than 2 years. So it's kind of funny. It was almost the exact same flight away. We put up another solar array. That was the idea. We were putting up actually the fourth and final one. And the person who was a pilot on this one was now the commander, and now I'm the lead spacewalk guy. So that's how you kind of work your way up. You know, basically you train it, you do it, and then you get to teach it and lead it. We want to time it just right so the sun's coming up as we get to the right spot, and so we get this kind of view. If you look closely, you can see the shadow of the shuttle coming down the side on the left. So, then we actually did the full fly around of the station itself. We get a 360 view of the station as we went around. So we sped this up because it took us an hour and a half to do it. So that'd be a little long for you. Kazakhstan. This is the same as in Baikonur. This is where they started their program. I launched from the same launch pad that Yuri Gagarin launched from. And we do the same traditions that Yuri Gagarin did. They're very traditional. And that's from signing the door of the room you slept in to relieving yourself on the tire of the van that takes you out to the launch pad. It's required. This is after you do your pressure check with your whole suit on, you take it off and do it again. That's what you do, it's what you do. You don't ask questions. But same idea, we get the vehicle up there, and you notice the size of this vehicle is much different. This is almost weight-wise, it's only about 600,000 pounds, and it doesn't have the same kind of thrust. It only has a little bit over that for thrust. So you don't even know really when you actually lift off of curves. You feel rumbling, things start shaking, a little side-to-side movement, and then you start feeling a little bit of the actually movement up because it has just a little more thrust than it does weight. It's kind of so it's totally different launch feeling than it is on the shuttle. But you can see the size of that thing too there. It's less than 7 feet across for the three of us in there. And it's packed all sorts of stuff. So there's not much room in there to do that out the window, because that is a fantastic thing to do. So this was, I mean, look out the window. Our planet is beautiful. It's wonderful. Daytime is fantastic. Nighttime actually became our favorite, I think, looking out the window. Because you can see those are lightning flashes going on. You can see just the different colors going on. You can see actually a whole thunderstorm from end to end and watch the lightning traverse through the whole thunderstorm. And it actually reflects up on the station. You can see it up there. It's just amazing. If you go around the Earth also every 90 minutes, you get 16 sunrises and sunsets, which is kind of nice. But so that they happen very, very quickly though, because you're going so fast. This is real time on a sunrise. You know, we loved it up there, but again, you miss your family, miss showers, miss good food, etc. It was, we were happy to be going home at the same time, disappointed to leave. But, so the way it works, you're coming home on the Soyuz, is you leave the station, and about 3.5 hours later, you're going to be on the ground. So about 2.5 hours when it's time to leave, you burn your rockets to slow down. The same idea, use the atmosphere to slow you down. And this time, though, you can definitely see the plasma around the vehicle as it gets so hot, over 3,000 degrees, as we're coming down. It's about 4.5 Gs during re-entry on the vehicle, and you really get knocked around when the parachute comes out. It has different reefing, so it comes out as small and gets bigger and bigger as it goes. And every time it does that, it's a big jolt, and they spin the vehicle just to try to stabilize it. So it's a pretty good roller coaster ride, and you get knocked all around. But you know, you're strapped in tightly, and there's nothing else you can do anyway. So then we basically hit the ground under the parachutes. Boom. So it's like taking your car and driving it backwards about 15 miles an hour into a brick wall. That's what it feels like. So I wouldn't suggest doing that, but if you wanted to see what it was like, that's what you can do. This is where we landed in Kazakhstan. It is definitely the middle of nowhere. There's not a building within 200 miles of where we landed. I can't say there's not any people out there. I think there's some Kazakhs on horseback somewhere. But there was nothing else out there at all. It was amazing. And the Russian crews came and got us, and within 24 hours I was back in Houston doing medical tests.
I have a new patch received. This is our Lunar Ranger patch here. And This is our Junior Ranger program that we have here for all of our Lunar Rangers, and I'd just like to say welcome to the moon.
Oh, thank you very much.